how do you make them feel organized?
So it's typically setting up, going through the stuff that they don't need anymore and figuring out the things that they do need, and then setting up the systems for them that will work really well. And that's the key, is what are the systems that are going to work for you? If we set up a filing system, if, alphabetizing is a good start, but what are the things that are work so that they're going to be able to maintain it on their own and they don't have to call me back in a year and say, I need your help again.
How many organizations, you talk about a paperless world, and that's somewhat of a misnomer. How many organizations that you've worked with are really, truly paperless? Do they exist?
I have yet to come across any that actually are 100% paperless.
We are front-end paperless.
Yes.
So we don't have one file cabinet here.
That's amazing.
Not one. We front-end scan everything.
See, that's amazing. There's an attorney firm that I work with, a client. They completely have gone to moving all of their client files to electronic, but they still have a few paper things that happen for their business stuff. They have their insurance, but they're starting to get that stuff scanned as well. But most people don't have the systems in place to make that work. I try to work with them so that they're not having to completely change gears. They're, all right, how's your brain work? Where are you looking at things? Are you more of a visible person? Can we tuck it in a drawer? So that I'm not changing their patterns completely. We kind of start to blend.
That tucking in the drawer is the kiss of death, I find. It's like, out of sight, out of mind.
I love it. But that's most people are. Most people are actually very visual. They need it out. So there's different ways that you can have it out and visually out there for them, but still be organized. There's not paper piles on their desk.
And it's funny when you see the transition of the first employee and the ladies got everything in their head to the second and third where they need the systems. That's when all havoc breaks loose. So when are you finding the people reaching out to you?
I'm actually finding most people are reaching out to me for the business process procedures, usually when something has happened that has disrupted their business because all of those systems and processes were in their head. So for instance, the CFO goes out who does, the invoicing for their clients, and there's more steps than they thought there was, and now their clients are upset. So it's usually when something has happened, there's a pain point for them that they're calling me for the setting up the processes, getting that information out of their head and onto paper so that somebody else can do their job if something happens to them, or if they go on vacation, or that sort of thing. Or growth. Growth is another one.
So it sounds like a big part of your role is really around process design and process implementation, as opposed to what comes to mind when you talk about organized, which is the physical space and the physical assets.
Yep, I do both, but all around small businesses and home offices. So I love doing the physical space, helping them set up a good filing system so that piling is not their filing system. They can find things. And electronic filing is a big one. Even setting up naming conventions that the whole company is using, so it's consistent. But then on top of that, there's the organizing of the thought and the brain. So not just the physical space, but also the thoughts and the things that are all in their head, getting that down on paper in a step-by-step process. So it's out of their head. They can use it as a training manual. So I do a little bit of both, actually. I find that one kind of leads into the other.
And a rhetorical question, I guess, would kind of be, do the people actually ever feel organized, or are they always kind of stretched to think?
No, it's funny you say that, because I have a great client that I've been working with for a year, and we started out, she's an attorney, and we organized all of her paperwork and got things really organized in her office. We meet once a quarter and we do a maintenance, and it's just to get her cleaned up and, add files or that sort of thing. She maintains it pretty much on her own now. She feels organized, and she works out of her home, and it's starting to spread in the rest of her house. Like, she called me the other day and she was like, okay, I need help with this because I don't want any more stuff on my counters. So it's
created OCD.
I did.
Well, but it's
opposite.
It's interesting because I go through a little bit of that. I don't know, in the interest of full disclosure in my personal life, and spouses. sometimes you have the challenge where one person is fastidious about making sure that there's not mail piling up, and another spouse might let mail pile up. And I think one of the challenges, you can set up the systems, but again, as go back to the behavioral change and making sure that you are continuing, because I don't know about your house, John, but if you don't touch mail in my house for 3 days, it's like you need another room, and it's amazing the volume of things that come.
Counter.
And it really takes no time. And so it seems to me that changing that habit and making sure that people are highly disciplined around the system that you put in place is key.
It is. And that there's an accountability side of that. There's a lot of clients that I still work with over time where we'll do a check-in call, even just a phone call. How are things going? What are the challenges that you're having around it, and getting them so that they're accountable. They're having a conversation with me or meeting on the maintenance appointments, just at once a quarter. And it's so small when you're doing it. It takes an hour to maintain it in 3 months than it used to take hours to get it. So there is the accountability side of it, because you have to create a habit, and that's not an easy thing to do necessarily.